What's goody, Shellitronnn here. You can call me Shells, and I'm back again with a brand new video. And I'm gonna keep it a Bowberry biscuit. I have seen enough. I've already seen enough. I know we're only 6 games deep into this 17-game season in the 2021 National Football League football season, but I have seen enough of these Carolina Panthers, and it's not because I'm just disappointed in how we've played. It's because I've already seen this movie before. There's some movies you would love to see again and again and again. For me, it's the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I could watch that movie once a month for the rest of my life and never get tired of it. But there's some movies you just do not ever want to watch ever again in your life. Between the 2020 season and the 2021 season, we're living in a world where it's just hot tub time machine. That's the quality of play we've been seeing from the Carolina Panthers for the last, what's called a year and 1/3. We're a team defined by being almost there. We're a team defined by our what-ifs. What if Teddy Bridgewater would have won even half of those games that were a one-score game with 2 to 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter? What if our O-line last year was decent enough? What if Christian McCaffrey was healthy last year? Fast forward to this year, what if Sam Darnold did not throw a pick on the very first play against these Vikings? What if Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore were not dropping passes from pretty well thrown balls from Sam Darnold? Now, it wasn't really DJ all that heavily, but it definitely was Robbie. And I'm going to get to him talking about how passionate he was. What if we actually had a team that could win games late? And this Vikings team was not that good. This isn't a good Vikings team. The Eagles we played last week were not a good Eagles team. These are teams you should beat. Look at that. Look at the schedule. We have one of the easiest schedules in the whole NFL. There's no reason at all we should not be 5-1. I mean, 4-2 for sure, but 5-1 should be very, very doable. We should easily be 5-1 so far in this season, and we're 3-3. Now, when you hear 3-3, you say, okay, you're a 500 team. That's not too bad. But it's the way we're losing these games. It's the fact that we have these games where the defense plays great. AJ Bouye forces a fumble on, I think it was Justin Jefferson, and then Hassan Reddick picks it up and goes upfield. I mean, that's great. These are plays that are very, very good. We see plays where our offense actually looks like it can move the ball down the field. I like what I saw from Chuba Hubbard at points. I like that very, very late 30-yard run that Sam Darnold had. But when you have a quarterback who is 5 for 18 at the half and no receiver has more than one reception, I think it was what? It was DJ, Shi Smith, it was Alex Erickson, it was, who else was it? I forgot who it was. Robbie had one, and it was Timar. Timar had one. 5 for 18, 60 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception on the very first play of the game, by the way. That's all in the first half. That's all in the first half. That is what we have to deal with the Panthers. And we've seen this before. We've seen this before. And I'm kind of getting confused about when we talk about, well, with Sam Darnold, we're making excuses. I don't see a single person making an excuse for Sam Darnold. I know there's a lot of Panthers fans who want to turn this quarterback issue into a black versus white thing where it's, oh, Teddy Bridgewater, we were getting on Teddy. We was getting on Teddy. But no, we were saying Teddy was bad. But when it comes to Sam Darnold, why is it different? I don't see a single person. I see a lot more people asking why it's different than I see people saying it's a different situation. I remember last year, I was saying the O-line was bad, but also this man, Teddy Bridgewater, was horrible. Now, he had, 9 opportunities late in games in the fourth quarter to get game-winning drives? We've only seen really 2 real chances for Sam so far, so we have more time to see how bad Sam is and whether or not he is as unclutch as Teddy was all of last year. But I don't see too many people actually having that big of a problem calling out Sam Darnold for being bad. In fact, I see plenty of people having a problem with Sam Darnold being bad. But also, I feel like last year with Teddy Bridgewater, look, it took us the full year to realize, or it took me a lot shorter, but it took us the full year. We knew the O-line was bad, right? After last year ended, everyone and their mother knew that the Panthers' O-line was actually horrible. And I think people understood that was why Teddy Bridgewater did so badly as well. But when the franchise understands that there is no O-line, we have one player, and that's Timo, who was even a starting offensive lineman, protecting Sam Darnold, and we go into the offseason and then in the draft and don't pick up a singular quality offensive lineman. You can talk about a 6th-round pick. You can talk about Deontay Brown if you want. Deontay Brown right now is a mystery. He's a guy who is probably the best case scenario for the scenario we're in, and we're in one of the worst case scenarios as far as offensive lines go in the NFL. I don't think Deontay Brown is a starter. I don't think he is a priority, can't do better than him kind of offensive lineman. Plus, he's on a Band-Aid that fixes our problems anyway. So even if he was healthy, even if he could go, it wouldn't be that big of a change for our O-line. I was saying before the draft, I was saying in March and February, for our first 3 picks, 2 of them have to be offensive linemen. And this franchise ignored the offensive line. Now look, are all of Sam's problems due to the offensive line? Of course not. But a lot of them are. If we had any protection at all. Now some plays he had pass pro. Other plays, it was a joke. If this team had even consistently average, even slightly above average offensive line play, then we would be a much better team. I'm not saying that Sam Darnold's mistakes would be gone completely, but we'd be a much better team. So it's kind of hard to watch Teddy Bridgewater do poorly, by the way, and Teddy did do bad. But he was behind a horrible O-line that we knew was horrible even when we had Kyle Allen. So in 2018, we had a bad O-line. 2019, we had a bad O-line. 2020, we knew we had a horrible O-line and we have to make changes. We make no changes at all. The front office shows they do not care about protecting the quarterback. At some point, you gotta start putting 2 and 2 together. How good can any quarterback in Carolina be until they actually invest in an offensive line? Everyone says, every single smart football fan says, the game is won in the trenches. It's won between the D-line and the offensive line. Who gets better push? They always determine who wins. The O-line protects the quarterback, which is the most important singular position in football. So when there was people doing the stanky leg, twerking, hitting the pool palace, when we picked up Terrace Marshall Jr. in the 2nd round of this past year's draft, I was kind of confused. We didn't go for an O-lineman until the 3rd round, and he's a backup, he's not even a good backup. The guy doesn't even play the position that he played in college when Pro Football Focus named him in the top 3 all time at that position in college and some of the top of the actual year. As a left tackle, he doesn't play a position, he doesn't even start for real. That's the guy we picked up. And people were going crazy over our draft, calling it a good draft. Look, I spent too much time already talking about that. I don't want to sit here and talk about the problems, the systemic problems with the Panthers, because there's a specific game I gotta talk about. It's this Vikings game. But there's a lot of things going on with this team at the very, very top, and it's covered more than just this regime. This isn't just a Dave, a Matt Rule, whatever you want to call Phil Snow kind of issue. This isn't just a Scotty Fitt issue. We've been seeing this problem for the last, let's call it 10 years, I think. Honestly, yes, 2015 was a good O-line, but we haven't had a consistent good O-line for over a decade. And until we actually invest in an offensive line, there will never be an offense worth talking about. At least not consistently. So the defense has to win its games. And the D tried their best. Hassan Reddick on that one bootleg play, the fake bootleg to the screen to the opposite side, his left side of the field, where Kirk just goes across his body. It was going to be a screen to, I think it was, it was Dalvin Cook. I thought it was Madison at first. It was Dalvin Cook. Hassan Reddick reads it all the way, blows it up. It was 4v1, and Hassan Reddick blows that play up. We saw great, not just good, great defensive plays from our guys on defense. Frankie Louvu blocks a punt. We scoop and score. Kenny Robinson looked great this game. Or he had flashes. He had flashes of looking very, very good. I don't want to throw the word great out there too crazy, but Kenny Robinson looked very, very good in this game at points. You feel me? We also saw Dante Jackson playing in the slot a little bit. I didn't love it. I also didn't hate it. I don't think you pay Dante Jackson big bucks to switch him in the slot. I didn't like it enough to say, $12, $13 million a year for him playing in the slot, because someone's going to pay him. If Dante Jackson continues to play how he has this year with the big hits and actually being in coverage, actually being consistent, someone's going to pay Dante Jackson. So we have to pay him as well. And if we switch him to the slot to play the nickel corner spot, I don't think he's going to be worth what we're going to have to overpay and match the market in order to swap him to playing full-time nickel. But, I mean, overall, this was a game that was defined purely by our what-ifs. Purely by our what-ifs. Like, Robbie Anderson, I don't know, bro. I actually don't understand what this guy's problem is. Talking about when I was young on the sideline, people made a big deal out of it. But when Tom Brady does it, then it's just him being passionate. What is he talking about? Does Robbie Anderson not just Robbie, but Panthers fans in general, do y'all really understand who the Panthers are in the grand scheme of the NFL? That was not a big story outside of the Panthers fan base. Did you see any real sports media talking about that story? They may have mentioned it for one segment, moved on about it, and then forgot about it. Do you think this fan bases, do you think the Chiefs fans, or do you think Bengals fans, or do you think Seahawks fans are talking about Robbie Anderson yelling on the sideline, and you compare it to Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels? Do you understand that one, when he said that no one thought it was a big deal, it was a non-story, that was a lie. I saw people on Twitter, people who are actually people I respect, people who are actually very knowledgeable about the Panthers, parroting that very, very stupid thing that Robbie Anderson said. They said it was a non-story and once again tried to make it into a white versus black thing. Do you understand how many sports networks, how many just straight up news networks ran with that Brady versus Josh McDaniels story for weeks? Do you even realize that 3 years after Tom Brady yelled at Josh McDaniels on the sideline, people were still talking about it. There were articles written. Tom Brady kept getting asked about it. He had to tell people to stop talking about it. Josh McDaniels was still being asked about it 3 years later. Do you believe for a second that a single person outside of the Panthers fan base is going to remember that Robbie Anderson ever even said a word or ever even did a single thing on the sideline? People are going to remember he said something about a bear last year. And they will never remember. They're going to forget, if they ever knew about it at all, that Robbie Anderson yelled on the sideline. Do people actually think that this is actually a big deal? No one cared. People mention it. It's mention worthy. You were yelling on the sideline. People said, what was it about? What was going on? I don't think anyone with an actual reach or a fan base ever said he was toxic, bad for the locker room, was a bad guy, ever called him out of his name. I don't think anyone who actually was respected ever said anything outwardly bad about Robbie Anderson. Do you realize how huge of a story the Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels thing was? This Robbie Anderson yelling on the sideline thing was literally nothing at all. So Robbie looked stupid saying it. People repeating and parroting what he said looked even stupider saying it because it's very easily researchable. Look up how big of a story the Tom Brady thing was. It was being talked about for years. I promise you, we won't be talking about Robbie Anderson yelling on the sideline outside of making jokes about it in 2 weeks. Let alone the whole NFL, let alone news outlets who don't even care about sports for real talking about it. No one cared. And it's made even worse that he made a big deal about it and then put out this stinker. I mean, it looked like another guy from a few years ago. Went to the Colts, got injured immediately. Boy had the worst game of his life in his hometown of Detroit. I don't know, bro. I feel like there's just way too many what ifs. We can call it missed opportunities if we really want to. But, I mean, we let a dude named Ham. CJ Ham was shaking us out of shoes and socks. We got shook by a 258-pound fullback. Had our cleats on the electrical lines. Boy had his ankles up in the air. In the trophosphere. Getting shook by a fullback. I don't know, bro. I mean, we came back. I mean, we showed that we could come back. And it was, 28-17. Comeback. Tied it up after getting a field goal and then a touchdown off of that long 99-yard drive. And then getting the 2-point conversion to take it to OT. Also, you remember the big what if where Brian Burns got a free rush to Kirk Cousins off the weak side, and instead of sacking him, which he had time to do, instead of sacking Kirk Cousins, he reaches all the way across his body. Keep in mind, he came from Kirk's left side. Kirk has the ball in his right hand. He comes across his body behind him to swipe at the ball to get a fumble. Try to force a fumble, misses. Kirk Cousins slips out. The drive continues. All Brian Burns had to do was sack Kirk Cousins and the drive was cooked. These are the kind of what ifs. These are the kind of individual plays. These are the kind of mental mistakes that we make on a daily. So even when we are in position to almost win, And we do almost win very, very well. It wasn't just this year, wasn't just last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Look at those losses. A majority of those were by 1 touchdown or less. We have been a team for a long time that has been defined by missed opportunities and what ifs. So this game right here against the Vikings, I could talk about specifics for a long time. I really could. But at the end of the day, this is the same old story we've been seeing for years. Not just last year, not just the year before, but for several years now, this has been a team based off of, I don't know, being on the precipice. I mean, really being good at the very beginning of the year, going on a quick little win streak, having a good first 4 or 5 weeks, and then flaming out. This is why news outlets don't talk about us. This is why we get Thursday night games against the Texans versus Davis Mills as our primetime game. This is why we don't get 8 o'clock games. This is why no one cares about the Panthers, because we failed to invest in the position group that has the biggest impact on winning. People talking about, oh, we passed up on Justin Fields. Justin Fields would not do very much else against this O-line. Will we have won a couple more games? Yes. Will we have had a deep playoff run looking at our O-line? Probably not. Our whole team forgets what football is without C-Mac in the backfield. We got Robbie Anderson dropping passes left and right. DJ dropping passes. Now, yes, Robbie was the reason we were able to get to OT. Very great pass, a very great catch from Robbie Anderson. I don't think this team is a quarterback away from success. I don't think this team should be looking at a quarterback next year. There's no point. We have Sam Darnold. This team needs to look at an O-line, and that's really it. I mean, this Vikings game don't really matter. Like I said before, kickers don't matter. Vikings kickers matter even less. Vikings had a chance to go ahead and get up out of there. Couldn't do it because their kicker is horrible, because all kickers are bad. Kicking isn't even football, for real. I don't know what to tell you. Just a really tough game. And then we were gassed. I mean, and then OT is based off a coin flip. OT is based off a coin flip. We lose the coin flip, you lose the game. Simple as that. I don't know what to tell you. This is the same thing we've been seeing for years now. It's not much to say. I mean, just all that's changed is the players on the roster of the teams we get beat by. That's all that's changed. We gonna lose in close games where we say, ooh, we almost did it. Ooh, cardiac cats, we almost did it. Hey, you see how close? Hey, we almost beat the Chiefs last year. Remember, we almost beat the Chiefs. Ooh, we almost beat those Packers. Ooh, come on now, man. We're almost losing to the Eagles. We're almost losing to the Vikings. We have almost games against elite teams and almost games against horrible teams that don't deserve to be on the field with us. What was Sam Darnold? 17 for 41? Come on now, bro. Not much to say. It's a bad team. And that's just that. It's a very bad team. And I have a lot more thoughts that I'm going to talk about throughout this week. And you better be ready. Anyway, man, that's all I got for you for today, man. 28-34 in a game that at no point did we deserve to win. And even if we did win, it wouldn't change anything. We saw what we saw in the field. Even if we win against this Vikings team, what changes? What would have changed? Not very much. Not much at all. So, that's all I got for you, man. That's my thoughts. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And you already know to do with that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Been told y'all I been the man. Been told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.